I had like 12 minutes. I was going to add one sentence, and then next thing you know, I was a minute late. What is poetry? Why should we trust the artist? Are we supposed to think they only want money? My faith in a God that created you for this moment, in the life he has granted, is being judged righteously. So people wanting power of this world have an agenda. Wow. Okay. The scripture, like the law, has been planned from the beginning. Without the Bible, they would not know how to hate us. Without the law, they didn't know what sin was. They would not know how to hate, kill, steal, and learn the life of their father, Jack Parson, Bill Gates. Who needs college? Rum running, drug smuggling does not need higher education nor comedy. Why did Jeffrey Epstein cross the road? A chicken fresh from the other side told him Donald Trump need advice on the art of the deal, or how to make your enemies not talk about Pizzagate. Bill Clinton dates, Bill Gates rates, their karma, dharma, kismet, fate has a date to reap what they have sown and grown. Welcome, everybody, to Mud Flood Was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they are willing to debate you in a fair and honest way. Oh, man. Got the Pizzagate in there, all that other stuff. Got the tabs pulled up. Got to show the disclaimer here. I got it ready to go. So disclaim this. Fair use disclaim. Council, copyright councils, all approved and ready to go. Any advice you hear, get other advice, mix it up. Don't blame me. Don't blame anybody. Pictures. The emphasis on access to these definitions also implies that security is not so much about average availability of resources. It has to encompass variability. Excuse me, it has to encompass variability and extreme situations such as drought or price shocks, and the psychological resilience of the poor. Are they talking about us? Are they talking about you and me? Well, we're the price shocked poor. You want $6 for a loaf of bread? Better be yummy. Did you see that? The Boston's Children's Hospital until 1930 kept cows right there on the lawn to produce fresh milk for the patients before they gave them a lobotomy or put them to work covering up the mud flood. This is, I don't know. What does that say? What is that? It's a public school, Chester A. Arthur. Just another mud flood building. He was a weird, interesting president. It's from Die Hard with a Vengeance. They were going to blow up that mud flood building. What's with the paint job? What is with the different? What? How many school shootings? As of December, 7 school shootings in Wisconsin. There's something going on, right? You know, they've got to be mixing it up. What's up with the used to be just guys, little boys and crazy young men and stressed out wackadoos that went into schools and killed people. Now there's a rash of girls doing it. That seems weird. One was in Wisconsin, I know that. So this is they got us right where they want to be. Something. 911 attacks in the Red Sea. Houthi militias. Apparently, 2 U.S. Navy pilots ejected from their jet over the Red Sea. That or the Houthis shot them down. Which is more embarrassing to them? We shot down ourselves, or those guys we've been bombing for a long time shot us down with a Radio Shack type drone. This is that other manuscript from the other day. We are funny. I hope we got to see those. Anybody get to see those? Hola, Sergio. Well, what a busy morning. I look forward to talking to Sergio later today and getting down with this. But right now, I'm just glad I got to show those pictures, because now I've got to move on, let you know they are trying and leveraging psychological interventions. To them, it can enhance the effectiveness of health promotion strategies. You needed to know that. These are the words they use to control us, to use us, and call it love us. Psychological interventions from the people on the TV, I'm assuming. Wow. As your amygdala highlighted in green on the Sagittal T1 MRI image. Here, a little bit different view. It's super important, at least for the next 10 seconds. You know, that's something we got going. Attention span. I know I used to have a mind like a steal something. Amygdala, we've talked about before. Hey, look, a Rorschach test blot. I guess, you know, they wanted to, well, they didn't intuitively figure out it was the brain. And it's a gemstone, too. It's a liquid. It's like your pituitary gland. It's the gemstones in our body. We can build up gold, silver, and precious stone. The amygdala is the palm on the Phrygian cap. It's the Phrygian cap's palm. Come on, man. We haven't got all day. Amygdala. Emotions. You know, they now know, since I guess 1990 something, they can hijack your amygdala. That sounds like zero fun. Look, there's that thalamus, hippocampus. These are the things I'm always telling you that, oh man, in my opinion, don't take that. Don't take this. It affects your pituitary gland, your thalamus, your hypothalamus. But your regular doctor is going to say, no, take it. Take it, take it, take it. It may have estrogen mimickers, but take it. What's this? Where my mouse is? That's a trilobite. Remember, this is that shell of the trilobite. You can get right down in here into the fourth ventricle. We're playing games or what? No, I'm not. There's no way I'm going to not warn you. They're trying to hijack your hippocampus. It's very important. You ever got a negative emotion? You got to hijack. You got to neocortex. That's your new. Do they honestly want us to go with that monkey brain thing, crocodile brain thing? Man. I guess when you just go crazy laughing, you got a non-distressing hijack. Well, that'd be good. Not bad. This seems overdone, right? Psychological triggers, cognitive biases, cognitive dissidence. You can go to these workshops. Just costs a little money. They got it all figured out. Back in the 80s, the Coca-Cola kept losing. It was a disaster, but they kept studying it. She's got it figured out. It was, they keep pushing these down our throat. But everything after World War II, our brain's been drained. We're living in obviously a reset of, hey, look, the past was really good and we're living as slaves. I wonder why. And to them, with their psychopathic, who cares why? Just do it. Live as a slave. That one didn't get very much bigger, did it? I think I have it pulled up later. But I know I have 24 cognitive biases. I don't know if we can go over them all, but just world hypothesis. Your preference for a just world makes you presume that it exists. Well, we're being judged in a just world, okay? In-group bias. You unfairly favor any of those who belong to your group, presume that we're fair and impartial. Maybe we're not. Some people call the placebo effect the fact that you're taking medicine. You can sometimes, it can work even if it's fake. You don't have the Dunning-Kruger effect. That spotlight effect, reluctance, bystander, optimism bias, pessimism, negative, group think. And we know that, he's supposed to be pointing his finger to creation, but he's pointing it to the Kabbalah's Christ inside. As we know now that they were showing that it's the inside of a brain and it's hanging down. There's the amygdala hanging down there, I believe, and these other doohickey jihadis, the yahoos and haters everywhere. What? So they've been jamming the United States radar ever since for quite a while. I've done videos on it as 2019, 2018.
This friendly fire happened now. It is a huge embarrassment for them. The FA-18 shutdown had just flown off the deck of the USS Harry S. Truman aircraft carrier, CENTCOM said. On 15th December, CENTCOM acknowledged that the Truman had entered the Middle East. So that happened on December 15th. So they are now re-entering into that area because they were here before. Believe that was the beginning of this year, 2024. Now they're going back, but had not specified that the carrier and its battle group was in the Red Sea. So what really happened? So the guided missile cruiser USS Gettysburg, which is part of the USS Harry S. Truman Carrier Strike Group, mistakenly fired on and hit the FA-18, quote unquote. CENTCOM said.
Man, they expect us to believe anything, don't they? Like we went from, it's one thing to build the buildings, carve the rock, make the canals, but they keep kind of hinting at the water's important. I mean, they found those buildings where they could make beer, and they started making beer. Now everybody loves beer, but everything is pressure and water. Power trip.
Energy. Thousands of years ago, water was moved across vast distances by forces of gravity inside massive structures called aqueducts. Ancient engineers designed these aqueducts to bring pure water from its sources high in the mountains down into cities and towns. The Roman Empire asserted their power by creating lasting cultural.
Yeah, that's. Do you ever get the feeling they're shoving it down your throat? These guys did it. These guys, because they could carry these things. And this is their armor. So they built all those aqueducts for those very specific reasons.
Landmarks and water infrastructure, some of which are still standing today. The Romans celebrated water. They treasured water and built beautiful structures.
Somebody did. Somebody did. And we know there's Romans mentioned in the Bible, but it doesn't describe them as like ruling everywhere. You know, there were the Medes, the Persians. It's a lot of backstabbery between those, but King David inherited Jerusalem. All these cities have existed. We know they have, you know, what we call Doric, Ionic, Corinthian pillars and stuff, but come on.
To show it off, Roman water infrastructure was a symbol of their dominance. As they conquered a new territory, they would Romanize it by building waterworks to project their power.
That's why they were they ended up, you know, falling at the knees of the Roman Catholic Trinity God, saying, take us in. We have spent all our money trying to build aqueducts and bring the people water, and now
Small dry stream, from which the canyon derives its name in Spanish, was dammed in 1920 with what became known as the Devil's Gate, which itself was named after a local rock formation which is said to resemble the face of a devil at the narrowest part of the canyon. Arroyo Seco, even to this day, remains something of a striking contradiction, a punctuated wilderness within the sprawling vast urban landscape surrounding Los Angeles, a reminder of what the City of the Angels looked like before the god of gold, oil, and dreams of Hollywood neophytes made the region what it was to become in the centuries following the arrival of the Spanish explorers into that canyon. Arroyo Seco forever remaining
wow, what?
being instrumental with putting the first man on the surface of the moon. The adult Jack Parsons would also go on to create both the prestigious Jet Propulsion Laboratory as well as the Aerojet Company, and along the way come into contact with some of the most influential, if unorthodox, figures of the 20th century. There was nowhere else on Earth more suited than Los.
It looks like a nice house. Huh? It does. So they got the kid. He didn't need to go to college. Out of high school, he needed to teach college because he knew how to blow everything up.
Astra, translated from Latin into English, through hardship to the stars. And this became an incantation of the desire to reach escape velocity and bring man into the cosmos.
Is that a Roche chart blot? About this, pretty creepy, right? Jack Parsons and Aleister Crowley.
Following a donation of
Yeah.
$1,000, the Suicide Squad had finally procured a modest level of funding. Nonetheless, this sum of money actually
So he got supposedly, well, he was dead at age 37. And they always emphasize that, he's like the Epsteins and those guys, just so charismatic that they took over the room. And when he wasn't saving the world, he just wanted to have weird sex with the cult, trying to bring in the Scarlet Bride and all kinds of weird.
sustained the basic costs and material expenses of the group for some years to come. The ambitious young Rocketeers also gained an unfavorable reputation for loud explosions and potentially dangerous experiments on the campus at Caltech, but there was little or no formal complaints directed their way. Then, a twist of fate would place the rocket group into the national spotlight.
That's him. He's the guy. Like the Epstein didn't need
A
college.
chance
Bill
encounter
Gates. There's
with a
always
con
one in
master
every
developed
crowd,
out of a
right?
shared interest in magic and the paranormal due to Parsons having read Aleister Crowley's Nox Om Pax. The title of the text is derived from a phrase in ancient Egyptian.
Is this not our shared history? This isn't something that everybody knows. I don't think so. Not this way.
Which translates as light rushing out in a single ray. As the friendship between Baxter and Jack Parsons developed, he eventually took the Parsons along with John's sisters Frances to a ceremony known as the Gnostic Mass at the Church of Thelema underneath the famous Hollywood sign.
The Laguna Hills thing, man. It all I can say is you've been warned. You've been warned. I don't know about your mommy, but you've been warned.
Believe in the communion of saints, and for as much as meat and drink are transmuted in us daily into spiritual substance, I
See,
believe
that's nut and the domed flat earth there.
in the miracle of the Mass, and I confess one baptism of wisdom whereby
Is that they're studying that guy Bruno, the guy that the Cosmos, Carl Sagan brought out, but it's this guy.
Would develop a strong affinity towards for the rest of his life. Parsons, now Frater Tupan, which also resolved itself into 210 within Kabbalistic numerology, soon proved himself to be an influential and inspiring figure within the Agape Lodge. So much
red hair, green eyes, is honest and intelligent, and we've become great friends. He moved in with me about 2 months ago, and although Betty and I are still friendly, she has transferred her sexual affection to Ron. Although he has no formal training in magic, he has an extraordinary amount of experience and understanding in the field.
It's L. Ron
From his
Hubbard.
experiences, I deduce that he is in direct touch with some higher intelligence, possibly his guardian angel. He describes his angel as a beautiful winged woman with red hair, whom he calls the Empress, and who has guided him through his life and saved him many times. He is the most polemic person I've ever met and is in complete accord with our own principles.
It's like the Scarlet Beast. They're trying to bring her to life.
strange languages. Ed Foreman was terrorized at one point by a screaming banshee howling outside the parsonage, and the experience left him with a profound effect which haunted him for the rest of his life. If anything, the paranormal activity of the Agape Lodge gave testament to the ferocious levels of psychic amplification and attenuation which Parsons' cognition was firing through his nervous system.
These are the guys that did your NASA and stuff. They promoted the whole fake atomic quantum physics and let's talk about the mysterious double slit experiment until we're blue in the face. My algorithm. I've been looking and studying the Jack Parsons things. Don't worry, Ukraine's got a terrifying robot. Russia better just start running for the hills, man. This isn't planned. Look at that. New pictures of the hidden subterranean catacombs of Paris. Yikes. Oh, man. Hey, look how many things were established in 1924. That doesn't look very impressive. Well, that's big. The old Indian Dam Reservoir, the Humboldt Lumberjacks football, Home of Peace ceremony, a Jewish cemetery, Hidden Villa, Pasadena College, an equestrian, everything, radios, speedways, a bison herd. Get your buffalo, Charters Films, Castle Films, Columbia Pictures. Pretty sure. Yep. Fairfax. Something tells me there's a lot more to that school that meets the eye. Villanova Prep. Lot. I wonder what got established in the 1960s. How many? Well, a lot. Well, not Miss Chinatown. The Azusa 13, a street gang, but not near. I mean, that's 1924. What about at the end of the war? A lot. Look at that, an aviation company. Okay. Middletown High. The NEDAR of American race relations was the period of African American history and the history of the United States from the Reconstruction in 1877 through the early 1900s. That's pretty vague. They gave 1877 and they didn't ever say when the NADAR ended. That's when racism in the country, and particularly anti-Black racism, was more open and pronounced than it had ever been during any other period. Wow. So that's when they say it reached its lowest point. I'm saying we're probably heading for a lower point. You know, whatever they have for their panic, we're going to show them how to panic. Do we have control of our emotions? The NADAR of American race relations, and that was when you know, the Negro baseball leagues and everything else was just for decades and decades and decades. Some unending, well, where Dayton knew how to party, these guys said, we know how to party. Yep, we don't want to party with this guy. Now that the NADAR is here, and Columbia was pleading their case, we're supposed to believe the whole time. But I don't think they gave it a fair chance. And Woodrow Wilson said he was the president, or at least for a while, because his wife was said to rule for a while they had him in an induced coma. The white men were roused by a mere instinct of self-preservation. So that's how we got here. Until at last there had sprung into existence a great Ku Klux Klan, a venerable empire of the South to protect the Southern country. Woodrow Wilson, President of the United States. NADAR Here's the Bible verses we'll be looking at in Galatians 3 and Galatians 3:2. But the scripture imprisoned everything under sin so that the promise by faith in Jesus Christ might be given to those who believe. We'll be looking at this word: is going, shall go, is going, is about, I'm about. Schoolmaster to lead us to our Christ, the law, schoolmaster, no, tutor. Tutor seems to be more of the guide a child in the law.
Or the Genie, the single-chamber dual-thrust Hawk motor, the Gar-9, Scout, and many others.
But as his status as a rocket scientist grows, strangely, so too does his interest in ritual magic. Parsons is now head of the Californian chapter of the Ordo Templi Orientis and makes no secret of his unusual beliefs at the office.
He thought that his role was not only in science, but it was also in religion.
But the military man and scientists in the rocketry industry don't understand Parsons' obsession with magic rituals and the occult.
Maybe they do in Germany, where they've been studying it because Henry Ford said, here's some money, study it.
Parsons was seen as a liability, both by rocket science and by rocket business. He just wasn't a company man.
He doesn't.
No, man, he's too out in the open.
Jack Parsons had an accomplished and colorful career that ended in a violent death, shrouded in mystery.
So there's your history. Got a history lesson today. Now it's time to move on to the energy water nexus. Energy water nexus. I want you to be so familiar with what's important to them. And, you know, it's not like I don't go like, hey, water's super important all the time, too, because to Christians, when somebody says that child wants some, oh, I want some cold water. Do you want to give them, you know, like, here, we got some poison tap water. It'll do. The water energy nexus is the relationship between water, the water used for energy production, including both electricity and sources of fuel as oil, natural gas. So the Sankey diet, I mean, that's water, billions, quad years. Boy, 0.1 water waste treatment, electricity generation. Humans use very little water. I guess we're very little recommended for us or left over for us. Huh. We don't get to look at this one anymore because they're busy that day. The water energy, just not that I'm familiar with it. So anyway, looks like there's a lot of stress. A lot of stress. Except there's this one little spot that's not stressed where I'm living. It's totally not stressed at all. Probably because the rivers that start here. Water, energy, security nexus, food security. The United Nations thinks it's very important. They're linked to one another, meaning that the actions in any one area cannot help. They're worried. So I think they're doing that thing of where, you know, they're making the plans to get us ready to adjust to a world that might require people who can leverage psychological interventions and know other strategies to enhance their resilience and better cope with adversity. Because, you know, since the 70s and 80s when the people said, you know what's coming, right? Yeah, we know what's coming. Well, then we better get the people ready to, think that they could be, get some mindfulness meditation going, and we'll show them the color wheels and the rainbows. Boom. There you go. The Green Gang was another one of these secret societies. Very complex, the history. But Chiang Kai-shek and the people in China used it as a kind of like they're the people that helped sell the drugs, I think, for the heroin and the Boxer Rebellion. Somebody had to go like, that stuff that those guys are trying to sell, it's not that bad. You ought to give it a try. That opium make you feel good. Not for everybody, but, Chiang Kai-shek, I guess the emperor of China was all about it, and that was a big part of the world organized crime thing of, who's going to end up winning. He didn't. Mao Zedong's crime gang won, at least in China. I know that it was all over. I don't have time to go over them all. But then there's this other thing, I was studying the Treaty of Jeddah. They keep giving me the wrong ones. There was another treaty in Jeddah in the 1940s that dealt with these nations, these setups, where this reset was going on. I guess there's this 1927 one, Prince Faisal again. It's all turning back to, we went to using petroleum. Christian Liberty Academy, they got asbestos everywhere. Taco Bray stole information, killed the person that was proving without a telescope that the earth isn't spinning. It's the center of the universe. And they needed a big nope. Needed a big nope. Now this is getting ridiculous. Why aren't they showing those pictures? Huh. I wonder what that one is. Oh, the old Alchemy, first custom-built observatory ever, built without a telescope. Unfortunately, we know that the Mayans, the Egyptians, the Phoenicians, and a bunch of people before these yahoos already had better calendars. The whole Galileo affair, hey, look, you're going to jail. No, they're all in on it. Secret societies, and this is what they would have you believe. They're preparing you emotionally for something big. Did I mention all that Bill Gates, Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein stuff? Because, like I said, I think that they're running these drone things with these new CVT transmissions mixed with some Schauberger technologies. And so that seemed to go faster than I thought it would, but it is that whole Christmas time thing where everybody's not working, only certain people are out there. But I'm confident that a couple of dozen people will probably watch this by the end of the day. And if anybody wants to leave a comment or anything, go ahead and do all of that. But really, be prepared, because they're training you to somehow your fight or flight is disrupted to where you're going to be like that gazelle who just watches the lion feed on it. Doesn't have to be that way. We have a Bible. It tells us about a time where people have beat their swords into plowshares, did not draw a line in the sand, instead lived to live another day, protecting people for as long as possible until we also are rescued by fire. And then the great white throne of judgment. That's my story, and I'm going to be sticking to it because this is a flat earth nation. The golden age is past because the mud flood was Armageddon. That's why me and my friends will never tell you anything else. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arriba. Dirty. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakame.